2,000 years ago, when the Roman Empire stood tall as the most powerful force on earth, there existed a military unit known for its discipline, strength, and unbroken loyalty. This unit was the 9th Legion Hispana. For generations it fought Rome's wars, marched across continents, and carved its name into history. But then one day, without warning, an extraordinary thing happened. This entire legion, nearly 5,000 soldiers, vanished. They marched into the northern lands of ancient Britain, entered the fog-covered forests, and disappeared forever. No battlefield was found, no bodies were discovered, no officers returned, nothing. The mystery has lasted nearly 2 millennia, and even today, historians cannot fully explain what happened. This is the long, haunting, and true story of the Roman 9th Legion. The 9th Legion's origin is tied deeply to Rome's rise. Formed in the late Roman Republic, it served under Julius Caesar during his campaigns in Hispania and later in Gaul. Caesar trusted the 9th because they were not ordinary soldiers. They were battle-hardened, loyal, and feared by enemies. When Caesar crossed the Rubicon and launched the Civil War, the 9th marched with him. They fought at Pharsalus, they fought in Egypt, and they fought in Africa. Through every battle, the 9th remained one of Caesar's key units. After Caesar's assassination, the Legion continued serving under his successors. Rome changed, rulers came and went, but the 9th endured. It was rebuilt, reinforced, and reformed many times. But the name, Legio Nona Hispana, always carried weight. Their greatest challenges would come far from Rome, in a land Rome barely understood, Britannia. In the year 43 CE, Emperor Claudius ordered the invasion of Britain. The island was wild, full of tribes who lived in dense forests, unforgiving hills, and misty valleys. It was a land without Roman roads, without the structures Rome depended on, and without any fear of empire. The 9th Legion was among the spearhead forces of the invasion. They established camps, cut down forests, built roads, and constructed forts. But every mile north brought new dangers. The tribes fought fiercely, striking from behind trees and disappearing into shadows. The Romans were organized, but the Britons were unpredictable. Then came the event that nearly drove the Romans from Britain entirely: the rebellion led by Queen Boudica. After Roman officials abused her family, Boudica united multiple tribes into a massive uprising. Her warriors burned Roman towns to the ground. They destroyed Londinium, slaughtered settlers, and defeated inexperienced Roman units. When the 9th Legion moved to stop the rebellion, they underestimated the scale of the uprising. Thousands of Britons ambushed them. The 9th fought with Roman discipline, but were overwhelmed. Most of the legion was killed. Only the cavalry commander and a small group escaped. This catastrophe became one of the darkest chapters in the legion's history. Still, Rome did not abandon the 9th. They rebuilt it, recruited new soldiers from across the empire, and restored its strength. The legion continued to guard and expand Roman control over Britain. Roads stretched northward. Forts were built deeper into tribal territory. But every advance brought the Romans closer to the tribes of the far north, tribes who would never bow to Rome. By the early 2nd century, the frontier between Roman Britain and the northern tribes was constantly unstable. The tribes beyond the border, including the Caledonians, were some of the most resilient warriors Rome ever faced. They lived in harsh climates, wore little armor, and moved swiftly across the rugged landscape. They could vanish into fog-covered valleys and reappear miles away. To the Romans stationed there, the north felt like the edge of the world. Life for the 9th Legion along the frontier was difficult. The weather was brutal: cold winds, relentless rain, sudden storms. Food supplies were uncertain. The nights were long and eerie. Soldiers often wrote about strange sounds coming from the woods, distant cries, horns echoing across hills, or the feeling that they were being watched. Patrols sometimes disappeared. Small Roman outposts were wiped out in isolated attacks. Messengers could take days to return, and sometimes never returned at all. Soldiers stationed there lived with constant tension, always prepared for an ambush. It was during this fragile period that the event occurred, the one moment that would define the 9th Legion forever. Around the year 117 to 120 CE, reports reached Roman command that northern tribes had attacked settlements beyond the frontier. Farms were burned, Trade routes were disrupted. Scouts went missing. The governor of Britain, likely Quintus Pompeius Falco or one of his immediate predecessors, ordered the 9th Legion to march north to suppress the uprising. For the Legion, this was familiar. They had fought rebellions before. They had survived Boudica's uprising. They had rebuilt themselves. A northern campaign was not unusual. The Legion prepared for departure. Almost 5,000 soldiers gathered their gear: shields, swords, javelins, supplies, medical kits, tents, and rations. Officers studied maps. Centurions organized their units. The Golden Eagle standard, the symbol of Roman honor, was polished. Trumpets sounded. The gates of the Roman fortress opened, and the 9th Legion marched into the mist. What happened next has remained one of history's most puzzling mysteries. Days passed, then weeks. Rome expected regular updates from the Legion. Campaign reports, casualty notes, supply requests, anything. But no message arrived, no patrol returned, no courier rode back through the gates. Silence. The Roman governor grew alarmed and sent scouts to look for the Legion. The scouts traveled north, past Roman forts, past the frontier, into the dense forests and high mountains of Caledonia. What they found was deeply unsettling. There was no sign of a great battle, no abandoned armor, no mass graves, no burnt camps. Only traces of movement, footprints washed by rain, broken branches, faint signs that thousands of men had passed through. But nothing that explained where they went. For a legion of this size to vanish was unimaginable. Roman military structure was designed to prevent exactly this. Even defeated legions left remains: bodies, broken shields, scattered equipment. But here, the 9th Legion left nothing. It was as though the earth swallowed them. More scouts were sent. Still nothing. No survivors, no prisoners, no tribal accounts, no definitive clues. Eventually, Rome accepted that the 9th was gone. But strangely, the empire made almost no public mention of the event. The Legion simply stopped appearing in official records. Its name was removed from future deployments. Its existence faded from military rosters. New units replaced it. Life in the empire moved on. This silence, this refusal to acknowledge what happened, is part of what makes the disappearance so mysterious. If they died in battle, Rome would normally record their final action. If they were reassigned, records would show it. But instead, the 9th simply ended. And so began centuries of speculation. One theory suggests the Legion was completely annihilated in a massive ambush by northern tribes. Perhaps thousands of warriors united, attacked from all sides, and destroyed the Legion so thoroughly that the survivors were hunted down and equipment was taken. But for such a battle, archaeologists should find traces, something, and yet they have not. Another theory argues that the Legion may have been reassigned elsewhere after suffering heavy losses. Some inscriptions suggest the 9th might have later been stationed in the Netherlands or Germany, but these inscriptions are uncertain, and there is no final proof. Even if soldiers moved, why did the official records of Britain remain silent? Some believe the Legion mutinied, broken by years of suffering, cold, fear, and isolation. Perhaps they abandoned their post and attempted to flee south, but such a massive desertion would have triggered court-martials, punishments, and detailed reports. Rome never ignored desertion. Then there is the most dramatic theory: political cover-up. At this time, Emperor Hadrian was preparing to reinforce the northern border. He ordered the construction of Hadrian's Wall, a massive stone barrier stretching across Britain. If the public learned that an entire legion had been wiped out by northern tribes, it would humiliate the empire. It would signal weakness. It would make other provinces question Rome's power. Because of this, some historians believe Rome buried the truth. They erased the legion from records, reassigned numbers, and quietly replaced the lost unit. The disappearance was turned into silence, not to protect the legion, but to protect Rome's image. Even today, archaeologists continue searching. They dig near old Roman forts, examine ancient maps, analyze ruins, and study tribal records. But the truth remains elusive. No definitive battlefield has been discovered. No mass graves, no weapons. No written report from the time describing a disaster. The earth has kept its secret. Across the centuries, legends formed. In the Scottish Highlands, some locals spoke of ancient armies marching through mist at night. Shepherds once claimed to hear distant drums in remote valleys. Travelers told stories of phantom soldiers standing among ruins. These are legends, of course, echoes of memories passed through generations. But they show how deeply the disappearance of the Ninth is woven into the land. Think about what it meant for those soldiers. For the young recruit who left his home in Gaul or Spain, believing in Rome's promises. For the veteran centurion who had survived decades of battles. For the standard bearer who carried the eagle of the legion. They marched with confidence, trusting in the empire they served. None could have imagined that their final march would become one of history's greatest mysteries. The Ninth Legion's disappearance teaches us something profound about power. Even the greatest empire in the ancient world suffered losses it could not explain. Even Rome, with all its organization, could not prevent the silence of the North. The forests of Britain swallowed 5,000 men, and the world has been searching for them ever since. Perhaps someday the truth will emerge. A buried camp, a forgotten inscription, a lost document. Or perhaps the mystery will remain forever, preserved by the land that witnessed the Legion's final steps. Whatever the truth, the story of the Ninth Legion endures. It endures in books, in excavations, in theories, and in the imaginations of people who hear about a Roman army marching into the fog. Their disappearance is not simply a military story, it is a reminder of how fragile human certainty is. No matter how strong a civilization becomes, there are still shadows beyond its borders, shadows that swallow even the mightiest. The Ninth marched with discipline. They marched with armor shining. They marched under Rome's proud eagle. And then they walked into fog, into silence, into legend. Their footsteps fade into history, but the mystery remains alive. And so, the story continues, an endless echo of a legion that never returned.